We are at the separation point now.
Okay, so we've separated now. This time I've tested freedom.
Oh.
So I went wild. In other words, I paid myself back all the years remember I got married at 20.
Yeah.
That time people don't get married at 20, probably get married at 30. So they enjoy their freedom of, their childhood. So when I separated, it was my turn. I enjoyed I went to go and enjoy in scenario. Everything. I partied from Monday to Monday, Monday to Thursday. I drank my life away. I'm talking about heavy drinking, whiskey. I smoked weed. I smoked cigarettes. I did all sorts. I went into relationships. Of course, I was protected because I was I grew up as a hypochondriac person. So I was very I indulged in the world.
Oh.
In hope of healing the pain and covering up and fulfilling the void, covering the void. I did it all. In this scenario, I would even take my children to a friend of mine who had a mom, and I would pay her. Sometimes we don't because she knew we were really hurting, and I would leave them there and I would party, drink, smoke, weed, everything. I was broken. Yeah. I even cut contact with him, not talking to children, only because I felt like I needed to protect their emotions. Because every time they would talk to their dad, they would cry, they would break down. It would take me 2 weeks for them to come back to normal. Every day I'd be like, it's okay. I was tired. I was like, cut, no more contact. So a good 2-3 years, no contact.
What's going on your side?
At that point, I felt I would take her on the altar and pray. And I needed to constantly say, forgive Huda on a daily basis. She was my prayer point of forgiveness on a daily basis. Because I would, now not because of the affair, but because I felt Huda is robbing me something that is mine. I wanted to be part of their development stages. I wanted to be there when they start their school.
Yeah.
When they step at school, the first day they go to school, I wanted to be there. Their changes, when they start to make the first statement, when their vocabulary improves and all those kind of things. But I wasn't able. So whenever I would think about that, I'd remember who and get annoyed. But then the Holy Spirit of me, if Satan wants to set you up, then I'll continue to say,
You are
Lord,
still hopeful.
Of what?
That she will come back.
I was in between. I said, at that point I had this mindset. If she does not return, I know I've dedicated myself to serve God, because at those 5 years, I was never thinking about remarriage until even pastors in this city and all over started to pressurize me. You must remarry. You must remarry. You can't have a ministry like this and stay here like this. Pressure. You need to remarry. But before that being said, because I don't want to deviate to that, I want to be straight to your question. At that point, I felt like, this is too much. My children, I would snoop into her status. Although she blocked me, then I changed her number. She didn't know, so that I knew her number. I hadn't changed. And then when she changed her number, she had another number. I also got it. So I would go on the status. Now she didn't know today that I got that second number. So I would go and snoop on her status. When I see any picture of my children, I'll print a screenshot and I save it into my. So I would now be
even mine.
Even I have, of course, I would screenshot even hers, and I keep them. So, but I would be looking at the children. But for her, I was now stalking to see what she's doing. And I realized she's even looking more better than when she was with me and more happy. I thought she was happy until we met again. She looked happier. To me, she was happier. And the children, so that's how I could tell their stages. But and also the videos. I kept their videos I used to have. All the videos I had with them.
When they were babies.
When they were little babies. Those are the videos that every night I finish to minister to people powerfully. God has healed. When I go back, even a hotel or my house where I stay, before I sleep off, I would play my kids' videos. When I hear them talk. I remember there was one, my son was young, was pushing a small, like a small cat, and was pushing it in a yellowish kind of baby suit. And my daughter was swinging her on the bed, and she was, "Daddy, that's an aeroplane, Daddy." So I would play it like an autistic person. The other one, "Hey," and this one, "Daddy, Daddy." So that's all I did every night before I went to bed.
Did you miss her?
Missing her at that point in time, I wasn't missing her because I'd grown to be, when you become single for a long time, I felt now all much time I had is a fasting from prayer to prayer. My days were most of the time take my leadership. I was always at Heaven's Gates, then pray, fast, and come back with my team and do my ministry. So I never, that thing of a woman was not there, or looking that I was missing her. But every time I remembered her was here. Every time, whenever I was dressing, there were many things that reminded me of her. And tying the tie. So I had to force myself to learn from YouTube how to tie my tie. Because she used to do my ties. Every morning. The reason I did that is because I should not be remembering Hulda.
Yeah.
You see that arrogance? But of course, there were times in the night when I go to bed. When I go to bed, I would remember, the way Hulda we cuddle, just cuddling, the way she would cuddle me. And I know, so now I'm cuddling pillows. But then it was not something that I ever indulged, because there are mechanisms I'd put in place. Why should I punish myself to think of a woman in a sexual manner when I'm not going to do it? Because that will be protecting me and myself from indulging in those mindsets, because I know they're not going to be satisfied, those desires. So there's no need for me to think about her in that regard. So that's how I protected myself.
And did you miss him?
No.
You were busy?
Oh no, I was gone. I told you I had left before I left him. So my mind was, I didn't miss him whatsoever.
Okay, because of time now, I'd like to know how you came back together.
Okay, so
you're seated here.
Can I just give you a little bit of the DNA area?
Oh,
so
yes.
he came back and we had a meeting. He came to have a meeting with my parents to ask me back, to go back. Me, I was determined. I was like, "You're joking." No, I'm not. Then in the midst of the meeting, he goes, "I'd like a DNA." Then the DNA test, which was the most silliest thing you would ever do in front of a girl's parents. But anyway, long story short, I gave him a DNA. And that time it was even at work, and it came back, it was 99.99.99.99% his child. Yeah, and that's when I think the relief come from. And then from then, he flooded him with love.
Ooh.
Like, I think he realized, whoa, this is my hair, it's my next generation. So everything else changed completely. So he started giving him what he would have given him when I was pregnant.
Oh.
So yeah, so he started to come and pick them up and all of that. Long story short, so as I was doing my wild, we set that time of separation, so I'm coming back to how God brought us back together. So I was living my best life, quotation, best life. I was free. I was doing everything I wanted to do. So then, I got to a point where I was tired of partying because I was really known everywhere. I got tired of partying, that kind of lifestyle. I wanted to do something different. I started feeling lonely. I needed to have a husband, responsibilities, this and that. And that time I had graduated. I had got my job. We're in the house and everything is great. Things can seem great, but you're actually living, away from the will of God. And you think it's the will of God, but it's not the will of God. So anyway, I carried on. And then at one point, this is what happened. When God is prior to leading you to something big, there's always little things that he throws at you, but you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, in that scenario, I started gymming. I started to look after myself. Now I'm getting prepared to be, wedding. I need my husband to meet me like I've never had a child before, I started working on myself, building my body, gym body, we used to call it. So I started looking good. Yeah. So as I was coming to work one day, I was just on my phone and the little advert came on my phone. And this advert was like, "Oh, breast cancer, check for breast cancer, blah, 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 press your boobs like this and that." I was like, I ignored it. But that little clip remained in my subconsciousness. So as I went to have a bath, I said, "Oh, let me just practice what they said, that little advert." So as I was practicing myself, and then, I came about because you said press it, if there's any lump, squeeze your nipples, this, that. So when I did, I realized my nipples were lactating when I had stopped breastfeeding. So they started producing milk. It was serious milk. So I was like, this is not normal. I started to panic. And then I called my mom and I was like, oh, mom, you know, this, and she said, no, some women do it. That happens to them after years, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but I stopped breastfeeding. How comes it wasn't happening during that period? But now why is it happening again? Why is it happening when it's never happened before? And she said, oh, maybe I had not realized. I said, Mom, no.
6 years.
You know, 6 years I had not realized. I'm sure I pressed my boobs at some point to check myself. And then she's like, okay, like, and I went to sleep, but it just wasn't resting right. So big mistake, I Googled it and I was like, anyway, when I Googled it, it was like, breast cancer, this, and I said, you know what, let me just be on the safe side, better safe than sorry. I went to the doctors for a checkup. So I said to the doctors, I searched to the doctors, the symptoms and everything. And he says, you know what, let's not jump into conclusions. We're going to give you a blood test, MOT. I called it MOT, so thorough blood test. So we went, I had the blood test on a Wednesday. No, on a Tuesday. Tuesday evening. They said to me, if there's nothing to worry about, we won't call you. But if there's something to worry about, then we'll call you immediately. So I took the blood test on a Tuesday. On a Thursday afternoon, they called me, I was at work, private number. I pick up, I was like, hello. And then it's like, oh, this is the Clovis Health Centre. The doctor's requested you come immediately. Okay. I went, okay. What I was doing, I was working the squad at that particular moment, stopped. I said to the manager, I was like, okay, I need to go. You know, the doctor's called me and he's like, okay, everything all right? Do you want me to drive? I was like, no, fine. I took the bus. Thousands of things were running into my mind. I went to the GP, we call it general practitioners, we went to the hospital. So I sat down there waiting. So I was the last person to be seen. Imagine, I've come there, they've called me to come in the afternoon. Everybody else has come, has gone. 6 o'clock, they call me. I'm seated there for hours. So the doctor calls me, said, take a seat, did you come with anyone? I said, do I need anyone? They said, yeah, you need. You didn't come, no support? Okay, that's fine, sit down. So he looks at me and he goes, I think he could read that I'm petrified. Yeah. So he said, okay, so the blood test came back and it shows that you have high prolactin in the blood. So I sat on my age and I was like, what does that mean? And then he said, okay, so it just means basically, when you have this in your blood, it just means you have tumors. So I was like, tumors? What type of tumors? It says you have tumors on your brain, in your head. So I was like, okay. Immediately I said I was going to die. So he prints off something, he goes, okay, here's the printing of that diagnosis, read about it. And then you could read, the highlighted thing was non-cancerous tumors. Yeah, but me, I didn't see non-cancerous. I saw tumors, cancerous tumors. That's what I saw. So I looked at it, I said, I'm going to die. I got the paper and he's like, okay, thank you very much. He said, okay, so I'm going to book you in for a specialist. You're going to go for checkups and then hopefully we'll start the treatment and blah, 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 blah. I was like, hey. I said, okay, thank you very much. Immediately, as soon as I stepped the foot out of the GP, tears started to fall out my eyes. I got the paper, started singing. I remembered God. That time I'd forgotten God, you know. I remembered, it is well. So I started singing, it is well with my soul. I walked from the hospital to my kids' school. I walked from the hospital to my kids' school crying. I got to pick up my son and my daughter. My eyes were swollen and red. And then I was like, Mom, you okay? You okay? I said, yeah, it's fine. I tried to hide it. I was not hiding it. I was so scared for my life. I started thinking, planning my funeral. You know, all of these things were just running in my head. Who's going to stay with my kids? Blah, blah, blah. I had contact with the dad. It's not, you know, it was very, very, very scary. I got home and I sat down. My mom came over that day. So you're worried for nothing. She was even laughing about it. And then I now started to face myself. She's gone, it's me and my kids. I started to face myself. A lot of things I had to revisit, a lot of things, behavior, character. Now I'm preparing for death. Yeah. So 3 months they booked me into a specialist, but even in that gap of 3 months, I lost it. 2 weeks into depression, clinical. That was my second depression. I couldn't see father passed today. I couldn't see before yesterday. I just couldn't. Even cooking was a problem. I think my kids remember that. I was like, just crying, giving them food. I could hardly function.
Suicidal.
Even, yes, so I was suicidal as well. I started thinking of like killing myself. Started thinking of like, what would God think if I did? Is it a sin? I started, YouTubing it and see how people die, near-death experiences, how they feel, how they feel good. I just started rehearsing my grave. That was tough. And yet at the same time, I still needed to work full-time. And I still needed to take the kids to school. And I still needed to do the basic things. I couldn't even get up to have a bath. I was in clinical depression. Looking after myself began to be a proper problem. Now, I had to pick myself and be stronger so that I don't get fired from work. So every time I was walking, I was talking to myself. I was going mad. It was very difficult. So I started, just my heart, it's like the Holy Spirit just knows you. If you have the seed of God in you, He will really, really look out for you. Because God knew that I'm going to use this scenario, all things good or bad work together for our own good. He knew. Initially, I had no money left in the scenario of that period of 6 months. And every time I didn't have money, I would be very angry. So in the scenario, I realized my kids were sick, all constantly in the hospital. So I knew God had touched my children. I didn't change. He was still calling me so He can tell me that you need to go back to your husband, but I didn't change. I didn't hear nothing. He touched my finances. That didn't change me. So God knows us. He knows the intricate details of our lives. If He knows the number of hair in our head, how can He not know us, right? So He knew what to touch that would get my attention. Because initially, growing up, I was a very hypochondriac person. I feared to get sick. So what would get my attention? Sickness. So He didn't cause it, but He permitted it. Through my rebellion brought sickness, but He permitted it to work out together for our good. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing. I would not be sitting here. So long story short, I started I said, okay, now there must be a reason. My Christianity, everything I learned in life started to come back. So now my faith is being tested. The things I learned as growing up are teaching me to pray. I said, okay, now I need to go and find out the reason why God has permitted this to happen. So I lay an altar because I had listened to Dr. Miles Monroe, and he said, if anything you've ever gone through something, the first thing you need to do is inquire from the Lord. You lay an altar before God